All right, good afternoon. My name is James Wong. I want to welcome all of you to this panel on distribution. I'm the CEO and founder of the Founders Chair. It's a place where smart cookies meet smart money, so new ideas thrive. I'm honored, and on behalf of the panelists, to be here at the Medicarians event. We've got some amazing panelists, and if you don't know them, there's plenty of information about them out there. But we thought as a panel, it would be best to jump into the questions and not the bios too much. But I cannot say enough about the folks here. They're powerhouses of 3 distribution companies, each doing some really wonderful things, each with their own business model and point of view and audience. So you'll want to pay attention to that. And then we've got a deep expertise in carrier relationships that partner together with distribution, with Symetra being represented here as an insurance company. So I've got one job. My job is to make sure I got the housekeeping items handled, and there's only one, and then I'm going to turn it over to the panelists. But everyone's got a QR code, and we love questions. And so there's a QR code. If you have a question, I'm going to be monitoring this right here on the confidence monitor for your questions. If there are no questions, we'll make some up. If mine aren't good, then you're going to hear about what I had for lunch, which nobody wants to know about. So please, we invite questions. This panel and I have had a lot of fun the last couple weeks preparing for this. We've got a tremendous amount of insights, but nothing is as good as if there's something top of mind that you wonder, and this panel is the right group to go to. So you'd call it the straw that stirs a drink, if you will, of our insurance industry. So with that, though, I'm going to jump right in. As I mentioned, we do have 4, and we have Brian, Wes, Tyler, and Pat here. But the first question, and there's only going to be 3 questions, but then sub-questions underneath it. But the first one is, for many of you in the room, you may not be aware of the life, annuity, and wealth management distribution. It's undergone a lot of change. And here to represent it is a guy with the most gray hair, Brian. But I've asked him and tasked him with, take us back 20 years. Tell us what's changed in light of Retiretech now being widely adopted and an insatiable appetite for PE-backed firms buying up and consolidating distribution. So,
Thank
Brian.
you. My gray hair gives me street cred, so I try to wear as much as I can of it. But yeah, distribution going back 20 years ago, let's be a broker-dealers, RIA firms, IMOs, FMOs, whatever you want to call them. 20 years ago, let's just pick the annuity business, for example. 20 years ago, does anybody remember selling annuities back then? Like, you had to sell them, and you bought leads, and if you had an IMO, it was nothing more than a product distributor at best. Like, you just sent apps out, they came back in. When you got into like 2005-ish, people had started to figure out how to sell more annuity business. Do you remember the mentor days of the annuity business? You would find somebody who did 10 or $12 million of annuity sales. You would try and mimic them, and he would tell you how he sells and how his support staff person handles their office. Then you kind of got through 2008-ish, the world started to promote that a lot of the annuity producers got their Series 65, right? Became an investment advisor, either own RIA or join an RIA, kind of bringing it up into 2010-ish, where there was kind of a software craze. So people started to actually do and develop more plans for their clients instead of just selling things. So as you truck along, I mean, I think what's the coolest thing about how distribution has changed is to be a RIA, broker-dealer, IMO, you have to have way more value and way more technology and way more tools than you used to have before. From the advisor's standpoint, it's pretty impressive how sophisticated and how advanced these practices are now. I mean, you go out in the world and you'll see a practice that has 6, 7, 8, 10 people. They're gathering 30, 40, 50, $100 million of assets. They've got residual income from the RIA side. You look at the broker-dealer RIA world, they're all going more independent. So it's becoming a really, really cool thing, which, you know, he had a lot of data that supports why sales will be there. I just think the health of the business and when you go out and look at their offices, it's pretty impressive what you folks are doing out there.
So that was 20 years ago. Wes, can you kind of take us fast forward to what's today? And we did hear from Scott, and it was great that he said the annuity marketplace should be growing. If he had different comments, this panel would be a little bit different. But there's projected to be a lot of growth. But from a distribution standpoint, what does it look like today from a carrier lens?
Yeah, there definitely has been a lot of growth. From Symetra's perspective, when we think about distribution, we're all about how do we better support our partners. We are third-party specific with how we distribute our annuity products. So we work with banks, we work with wirehouses, independent broker-dealers, IMOs, and it's all around how do we help them and support them to support and obviously offer our annuity solutions as we go forward. So that's going to continue to be our focus. Honestly, I don't see that changing for Symetra. That's our model today. And with the products that we do offer, I think that is what I'll see it continue to be, at least in the near future. Maybe one topic I wanted to touch on a little bit about it is, it's a little bit of a tangent, but when I think about how can we help and support our distribution partners? One area that continues to, I think, grow and grow. People call it different things. It helps us with our sales teams, but also helps us with our distribution partners and their financial professionals, and it's sales effectiveness. Like, that's a lot of where we spend time as a carrier. And so what is sales effectiveness? To me, it's the combination of technology and data, and taking that focus between both of those and really identifying what are the single best or very best opportunities out there from a sales perspective. And then as a carrier, how do you make sure that you're aligning your resources, your support accordingly to make sure you're taking advantage of those best resources? For us, we definitely have made some investments in technology. One that I would point out is we made a big purchase in Salesforce, right? But I'd say it's much more than just Salesforce or the technology. You have to be committed to making sure that you're developing and investing in your people, around your sales effectiveness teams, around your data analytics team, to make sure that you're taking advantage and leveraging those investments that you're making in technology. We're seeing really good results from our sales team. If you look at our seasoned sales reps, they are much more effective in their territories. We're helping them maximize their time. We're helping them maximize the message they deliver. And ultimately, that's a benefit to our distribution partners and their financial advisors to make sure we're adding value. And then obviously, you bring on a new advisor or for us, a new sales rep. The onboarding time is so much shorter when you have really good tools in place and data in place. So I think this is an area that we're just scratching the surface. I think there's a lot of opportunities for this in the future that will help drive future annuity growth as we go forward. And it's all around how to use data, how to use technology to make sure that you're leveraging all the resources we have, and how do we make sure we get those into the hands of our sales team and ultimately the financial professionals.
Thanks, Wes. It's always nice and refreshing when the carrier is complementing the distribution. When I joined the industry 25 years ago, there was always a discussion, will the carriers displace the agent, right? And so that argument has been settled, and I'm thankful for that. But it's hard not to think about what other threats exist for the advisor, right? That plays a valuable role in the overall value chain. And so as we move on to the second question, kind of forward-facing, right? We think about what other threats exist. Well, we can't go further than Retiretech with the application of AI. And so as a panel, we all went around during our prep calls and said, we probably should address this, right, early on. And with the big pink elephant in the room, we'll start with you, Tyler, and then go to Pat, and the rest of the crew will be answering. But do you guys anticipate AI playing a role that would displace or disintermediate distribution?
I'm proud of us that we made it 10 minutes before we got to AI. So we're doing really well up here. This question just comes up all the time, and there are probably some people in the room, maybe some VCs that are looking for me to say, yes, we're going to replace all advisors with AI in the near future, but that certainly won't be me, and I certainly won't be describing that to the SEC. So what role is AI going to play, right? And if you think about when Retiretech, wealth tech, all tech's at its best, it's creating more accessibility. And I think about my own company at Retirable, we've made it extremely easy for people to offer professional decumulation advice to seniors, right? We've lowered that barrier to entry. And I think that's what we're gonna see from AI in the near future, is just augmenting what the existing distribution force can offer to clients. So, adding more products and being able to offer these really personalized, high-value solutions to the people that they're meeting with, because their relationships are king, right? AI is not going to replace that relationship, and that gives somebody license to offer a lot of products. And the second one, and maybe less exciting, will be the efficiencies that it's going to create. So how do you build something with that hyper-personalization? We now have the ability to do that, and that's to say nothing of all the call center efficiencies that we'll see out there. But yeah, Pat, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think when you think about what AI does, I think it just helps you do more with less. I don't think it's necessarily wholly replacing somebody. I mean, one of the investors in my business is Dan Gilbert, who owns Rocket Mortgage. And I live in Detroit, and there's a lot of friends that I know who are mortgage bankers. And so the first time the world ever heard of Rocket Mortgage, it was through Quicken Loans, and it was an app. It was the Rocket app, and it was click button, get mortgage. And all the mortgage bankers at Rocket Mortgage were wondering, what am I going to do? Because they can just click a button and they don't need me anymore. And kind of fast forward to today, and the company's now called Rocket Mortgage instead of Quicken Loans. And it's the largest lead gen for the business. But the number one thing that somebody wants to do when they're making the largest financial decision that they've ever made in their life is talk to a human being. And so I think that technology, like AI is technology, and technology kind of holistically will help us as humans do more. And I think at the end of the day, it will help us be more efficient. It will help us maybe kind of drive more efficiency in the top of the funnel down. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about a large value transaction like that, I think a person's going to want to talk to a person.
Brian?
Yeah, Pat said it right. I mean, you even think about buying a car, right? I mean, you try to avoid the salesperson generally at all costs. You speed out of the parking lot when they come out. You look all online. You figure out which one you're going to get or which two you're going to look at, LE or SE or whatever. And then what do you do before you buy the car? You go talk to somebody, and you're looking for confirmation or affirmation or tell me that I'm not going to screw this up or whatever. Could you do something that transactional online? Absolutely. So I think it might, if it replaced anything, it'd be highly, highly transactional things. But I don't see that happening in my lifetime.
Yeah, you guys have all probably hit on most of the points that I would lay out. It's here. It's not going away. I think we need to make sure that we are thinking about AI and embracing it as much as possible. I think there's opportunities for AI to absolutely aid both the customer and the financial professional in the sales process. But in the end, do I think the financial professional is going to be replaced? Hell no. You think about retirement. You talked about a house. Retirement is one of the biggest investments that you're going to make throughout the course of your life. And let's face it, it's not simple. Quite honestly, in reality, it can be very complex. So I think there's opportunities to really help the customer, mainly in the education process when it comes to retirement, whether that's just, I think, more online access, more digital capabilities, maybe even more self-service capabilities, those type of things. But in the end, when you're ready to drop a very large lump sum into an annuity, I still believe fully that most, if not the vast majority of customers are gonna say, I'm gonna seek out financial professional advice. I truly believe that. And I think AI can help our financial professionals as well. You think about, they need to make sure that they're doing everything they can to collect the full financial picture for their customers, right? And I think, AI can possibly help a lot of that in the future, and that's just gonna ensure that they're making the very best recommendations they can, and they're offering the solutions and the services that are tailored for each individual client.
Thanks. So as you can see, there's consensus, and on a panel, I get personally excited when there's drama and argumentative comments back and forth, but I pushed the panel. I said, well, where would AI, what role would it play if it's not going to displace the distribution footprint the way it is today? And they came up with ways that AI and technology in general could bring efficiency and hyper-personalization, which is what Tyler mentioned, to the forefront, and maybe some entry-level roles would be displaced, right? But this is after me pushing and prodding, so you've got a panel here that says we've got a huge demand for our products, we've got carriers supporting that, and we've got green lights to go out and have more conversations with customers. So, by the way, Anonymous 348, thank you for the question. You teed up my next question, which is really, you're talking theoretical things. Tell me what tangibly works within your practice. And so I'm going to start in with Pat. But the question is, now we've talked about technology, AI being a part of technology. where do you think Retiretech plays a role in your firm? How have you seen it benefit? What are some strategies you've seen, whether it's at Signal or to other adjacent businesses? So we'll go with you, Pat, and then Tyler will be following up.
Yeah, I want to hit on the other question real quick for 2 seconds, just because I do think, the question about how will AI replace financial advisors, I don't think that it will replace, like, what do you mean by financial advisor is kind of a decent question there, because I don't think it will replace, the archetype in my mind of a financial advisor is, let's say, somebody the independent financial advisor who's selling annuities, my core customer, Signal Advisors is an IMO. Let's say an advisor doing $10, $20 million a year in annuity production, just starting to get into wealth management, maybe does a little bit of life insurance, so does those 3 lines of business, and they own their own business, they maybe employ 2 or 3 people. Is that person, that business owner, going to be displaced by AI? I think the answer is hell no. But that advisor, when they try to expand their business, they're bringing on sub-advisors, they're bringing on servicing advisors. They've built a relationship with a book of business. Do I think that AI could basically go into the advisor's book of business, have a conversation with a current client, and upsell them and actually sell them something new? I actually do think that's possible. And so could you displace sub-advisors or servicing advisors in the business? I think yes, but again, I just think that goes to more efficiency. I also think that the best players, like the most elite players, like, Brian, I think you and I were talking about this, how new business, hopefully no one's in new business in the room, and if you are, it's okay. I don't think it should exist. I think the business would be, if AI could displace new business, meaning submitting annuity applications, then I think the consumer would be happier, the advisor would be happier, there'd be less cost in the process, and everything would just operate smoother. And I think there is a path forward to having not no new business, but I would say maybe like, let's take a 1,000-person new business team and make it 7 people. Let's have the SEAL Team 6 of new business. I think that's possible with AI too. So I don't think it's not going to be disrupted. I just don't think like that archetype of what we mentioned is going to be replaced.
Sounds good. And by the way, we'll take a little off script. We've got some questions, very timely questions. We'll stay on the AI piece. Important, the folks up on here, some of us play third-party distribution, so we work through an intermediary, so the agent is our customer. Some have a direct-to-consumer path, though. The question came up, though, around AI and morals and ethics. For the retail portion, the carrier, as well as Tyler, your business model, maybe you can kind of speak to that part of how you guys are approaching that or thinking about that, the morals and ethics around AI.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have focused to date really on applications that are just adding value to our core customer. So how do we create some more efficiency? How can we be smarter about financial planning using this data available to us to create more hyper-personalization? I think the ethics and morals really come into play when we start looking at, top of the funnel distribution and what's being put in front of consumers. And look, it gets really scary. We recently launched a protection package for our clients to monitor for fraud, because when we think about seniors, they're the ones being targeted the most. So there is some good here, but yeah, we're gonna need really tight constraints around what's being distributed, because it's so easy without the extremely large data sets to put some bad plans in front of people and tell them to purchase the wrong product, and that has detrimental effects. So I think ethically, morally, we're aligned and you can use it to your advantage, but there are going to be some bad actors out there.
If I can just touch on one thing too, I think that's part of when anybody says AI, like I've been to 100 speeches and I always hear some dude that talks a lot and says absolutely nothing. You just can't, you don't even know what it's talking about. So everybody has their own definition, or something comes to mind when you think of AI, maybe it's a fake video, or a lot of people refer to AI as Chat GPT. To give you another real life example of where we have it is on our phone system when we have 40 salespeople, right? So if I want them calling out on whatever the topic is of the day, a Symetra annuity, I can tell the machine to listen for Symetra and tell me who's using the word and who's not. So it still filters through and looks for who's doing it. Is the sales team doing what it's supposed to be doing? It also can load and look at new business calls, and it can tell you if there's an elevated call, like someone's pissed, right? So like it goes through and it gets smarter as you go, but it serves up the 7 to 10 calls, and you can look at them, the new business manager can look at them and say, okay, Are they all the same thing? Is it not Symetra with a new business problem, but like, are we hearing a different carrier thing? So it's such a big world that you can use the things for. It's not all Chat GPT and Joe Biden videos.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Compliance is a lot easier right now because we can analyze everything so quickly and know who said what. So that's a great point.
Wes, anything to add from a carrier perspective?
Yeah, there was kind of another question there just about not only morals, but data and how you make sure you're safeguarding data. I can tell you as an insurance company, carrier data is extremely important to us. It's the kind of the top of the chain of everything that we think about, and protecting that for our customers. When it comes to AI, where we're at, we have a steering committee, and it meets regularly on AI. We look at trends, we look at how we can use it today, what we think we might use it in the future. For us today, it's been a lot more around how to help our employees become more efficient in their daily tasks. Like, that's probably number one for us. And I think there's opportunities to help our salespeople, help our financial professionals. We have some of our products are more complex than others, and I think they have opportunities to really be looked at, not just a buy and forget type of contract, but there's things that they should be looking at on a daily, weekly, monthly type basis. And I think using this type of technology can ensure that we're reaching out to our financial professionals at the right time. Hey, this is when you might want to be talking to your customers because this is what's happening with your contract, and give them opportunities to make sure that they're delivering the right value that their customers expect when they're doing business with them.
I think it's helpful just to put kind of a wrapper around this conversation. This is like an MRI scan. This is a slice in time of what we know it to be. But David, you bring up a great point that AI could look like a real human at some point. Having the real conversation, talk about their kids, which would be really strange, but could happen, right? Where someone wouldn't know that was AI. So I kind of think a parking lot, we'll figure that out, and as an industry, learn more together. But yeah, this is a slice in time. But
I did go to McDonald's the other day, and it was AI that took my order. I asked when I got to pay. I said, "Was that a computer that took my order?" Yep. So, and you could tell, but it was pretty efficient. But I think it's coming everywhere, right? Not just insurance, but it's coming in all walks of life.
That's right. Gentlemen, you want to go after this Q&A? I like this one.
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. So, Tom, thanks for the question. Between Biden's junk fees, in air quotes, AI and post-COVID hiring trends, do you see more career distribution channels shrinking or going away altogether?
Well, I think in general, I think annuity sales are going to 5x in the next 10 years. So maybe that answers that question in some ways. I think rising tides raise all ships, and I think that's just consumer demand. I think over the last 10 years, fixed index annuities went from $32 billion to now over $100 billion a year sold, and I think it's going to 5x from here. And at first, it was baby boomers turning 65, so just baby boomers retiring. And I think the next great trend, it matters if you're on an elevator going up or down. I think if you're in this industry and you're starting to sell annuities, you're in an elevator that's going up. And I think the next trend is the great wealth transfer. I think when people come into money that they don't know what to do with and have never had before, they pick their head up and they look for advice. And so I think there's going to be a greater need for advisors, which drives a greater need for distribution. So I think Biden's junk fees and post-COVID hiring trends, kind of just to go off this question specifically, I mean, my view is like you fast forward 10 years from now, I think those are all things we talked about once upon a time. And maybe they have like lasting effects, but I don't think they're the big things that stand out for me a decade from now, that really drive whether or not premiums coming through advisors. So I see it as an issue that we have to deal with, but I don't see it as like as one with a negative lasting impact on what we're doing.
That was great. No notes.
We're talking about like career, like.
Yeah, so I'm in
I guess I missed that part.
Captive distribution.
So, yeah, I mean, you're already, my personal opinion, not the opinion of Medicarians, but they're already starting to go away. I don't think that the insurance carriers who have them are particularly fond of having agent forces out there. If they wanted them, they'd build them. I think, to the comment I made earlier about bigger offices and agencies getting bigger, I think you're going to have a lot more agencies where you're gonna have 20 people in an office, so you could still join something. You gotta learn from somebody. I just think the career agencies, they get too big and bulky, and they just can't control them. I mean, Securian just dumped their whole career force over to, sold them to a broker dealer. So you're gonna see them go away. There's still a few pretty strong ones out there, but I think you'll still have the agency feel. It just won't be what it used to be.
I'll throw my hat in there. I think we're going to have to navigate this as an industry very delicately. I think the carriers are going to have a lot to say, and based on their economic model is going to then allow independent distribution to make the proper adjustments. Some may decide from an efficiency standpoint it's not worth it, and they partner up or they refer that type of business elsewhere, and they focus on a different protection line product. Some may say there's still a business model that exists. I think this industry thrives because of optionality. I think that autonomy is a really big deal, and I don't see that going away. So from a demand perspective for our products, it looks good. Legislative and regulatory issues will continue to come around. We'll navigate that as an industry, but I think there are going to be some folks that decide this is just where I step off of the ride, so to speak, and train agents on something different. While many will continue to look at this as an opportunity. We talked briefly about in-plan distribution. Some say that's taking away from opportunity. I tend to think that that puts a huge spotlight on the features and benefits of annuities, if anything else. And I think the population, like Pat said, 5X, whether it's 4 or 2.5X, tell me too many industries that can say that, So tons of growth, but yeah, a lot of things to navigate through.
Maybe just a quick point there. I agree that the industry is going to keep growing. I think everything is set up for future growth. One thing that we talk about quite a bit, third-party distribution, we're obviously dependent on our distribution partners and their financial professionals, is how the industry continues to bring more professionals into the industry. I think that's an ongoing challenge that we're going to have to continue to solve. There's just not always a great pipeline on how we're going to replace some of the maybe career agents or others that are getting at or near retirement. We have an opportunity there to definitely show what we do. I believe is exceptional, and it's phenomenal work for retirees. But when you're getting out of college, who wants to go sell insurance or annuities?
Whoa!
Did you do that right out of college?
Brian was born into the business. Yeah.
Brian was doing it in college.
Troy.
He was doing it in college. Yeah. But we have an opportunity there. I think that's something that, as an industry, we've got to really, keep plugging away at, and making sure that we're providing opportunities and making sure people understand the value that we do bring in the future.
I'm loving the questions. Let's go to the next one from Jason. DOL regs, would we suggest as a panel to have an insurance agent go to a BD or RIA? What licenses may be needed in the future to sell FIA or MIGA?
I'm happy to take the first stab at that one. DOL, don't threaten me with a good time, huh? From a product standpoint, it doesn't really, they're not going to drag fixed indexed annuities under the SEC. You watch that try to happen with, you watched that try to happen with 0550 back in was it 2008 or whatever? The product isn't under question, so it really doesn't fix your problem becoming an investment advisor or broker dealer. I do think there's 100,000 other reasons that you should potentially look at becoming an investment advisor, but it's not the products that are going to go away to do that. Basically, what the DOL is saying and has been saying is they're trying to eliminate conflicts of interest out of products. And the gist of all regulation is do the right thing, disclose it and tell people what the deal is, and keep records. When it blows back on you 5 years later, you can explain what you did. So as long as you're doing those things, the investment advisory world helps you do that because it forces you to do it. But also, you gather more assets, you get residual income in your business, you become the client's sole advisor. Like, there's a ton of other reasons to do it, but it's not the product driven.
DOL. I'll kind of give you my stance and also our company stance is, I think what has been published or getting ready to be published, I guess, is definitely an overreach. I sit on the board for IRI. My boss sits on the board for ACLI, and the industry feels like they're in a really good spot to really go after DOL's regulation that's coming. we're committed to that. We have precedent from previous, DOL rule. There's some other things that are likely that the industry feels really, really good, especially at the bigger trade groups, that they'll even be able to get a preemptive injunction to start with. So the other question is, go BD, RIA. I believe that, customers need choice. And RIA is maybe not necessarily the best thing for every single customer. And, BDs can offer that. So having choice, I think, is important. And, what the DOL is doing is trying to take away some of that choice for customers. And in the past, it had a pretty negative impact on, lower middle income consumers that lost financial advice. So we're really against where they're going with it. And we feel that the industry has done an awful lot around Reg BI, the NAIC models, to make sure that we are doing the right thing from an industry and doing things on a suitability perspective.
Any other takers for this one?
Yeah, I mean, my only take is really we need to be lowering the barrier to entry for financial advice, but I'm not going to touch this one with a 10-foot pole. So.
No, I mean, the only thing I'd say is the industry. I built software before this, before building an IMO. I mean, we're building software as an IMO today, but I built a pure software business before that was all around submitting electronic applications for fixed index annuities, and actually, I ended up selling my business because of DOL, because basically everyone was trying to get ready for DOL. So they were trying to figure out how do they document their sales process, and part of that documentation was actually marrying financial planning with the purchase of financial products. And obviously that helped me. But what I would say here is that the industry has been preparing for DOL for so long, been stopping and starting, and nothing has actually gone into effect. So I think what you're kind of seeing now is the industry kind of obviously being head on a swivel, like obviously paying attention, but not reacting so much and just seeing what plays out, because there's no sense in spending literally tens of millions of dollars at each and every IMO trying to get ready for something that may or may not shake out. And so I just think as advisors, you can't really worry too. You got to stay informed, but you can't worry that much about it because it's moved around. I mean, it's been 20 years. That they've been trying to put something in place. So I had it on the swivel and always pay attention, but for us, we're kind of waiting and seeing.
So let's stay with that, Pat. So let's talk about how Retiretech's playing a role in your firm. And I think we've got room for one more question if one comes up. Other than that, we'll move over to Tyler and answer the same question.
Retiretech is our firm, I would say. It's the whole entire thing. It's what we're doing. Our view is that we're a tech-enabled IMO. So we're basically building out different pieces of technology to enable an advisor to grow and scale their business. Everything from marketing to submitting business to tracking how you're getting paid and what you're getting paid and managing a downline. So it's really kind of an end-to-end system for managing your advisory business across life insurance, annuities, and managed money. The thing that I think technology will do to the industry that it hasn't done yet, it's kind of like moved in this direction, is I think tech-enabled financial advisors will sell more products. When I got into the industry 10 years ago, I started at Northwestern Mutual, so career agency. And my one point on the career agency thing, by the way, is I almost think career agencies are already dead in the sense that our definition has certainly changed in what we deem a career agency. So it's just become way less strict. Northwestern Mutual is still a career agency, but all of my friends there that are still career agents sell a ton of different products. And if you were there 10 years ago, you would have been kicked out the front door for selling anything that wasn't Northwestern Mutual. So in that sense, I think it's actually even already dead in the purest sense of the word. But I would just say, I think, what's really kind of, I think, topical for this group is I think financial advisors will do more. So, I did life insurance when I first got in, then I started doing annuities, then I did managed money. I think if you look at it, you want to serve the whole client. If you really kind of work from the client backwards, you're like, I want to offer my client banking, mortgages. I don't want anybody to go in and create a wedge in between me and my client. And so that's what I think what we have to do for an industry. That's what we got to do is serve more of our client and not less, and not be so specialized, not be only selling them life insurance or only selling them an annuity.
Perfect.
That last one on there too.
Yeah. There's someone who said, I escaped NML too.
Oh, yeah. It was not easy. I had a long conversation with the managing partner. He yelled at me. He didn't throw anything at me, though, so that was a win. But I got out of there alive.
All right, Tyler, bring us home.
That's a big job. Look, Everything that Pat just said is completely accurate, and it's the whole thesis for our distribution model at Retirable is we've created a tech platform with human advisors doing the onboarding that can deliver personalized investment management, financial planning, and we're distributing it through people like you because we've lowered that barrier to entry. You can add this product, you can keep it in your ecosystem while focusing on your core business and driving revenue for it. So, if anyone in here is not adopting the Retiretech that you're seeing here at this conference, then you're gonna be falling behind because there are new products and services available to everybody.
We're almost at all zeros, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say as we conclude, thank you so much for the panelists, your preparation, your insights. A takeaway. We're always learning a lot of stuff, but a takeaway is always good. So what would give us as a panel huge, tremendous respect would be if all of you continued the conversation after this by clicking, and I did this earlier today, clicking and connecting with everyone in this room, because Retiretech needs to continue to grow. We think it's very important, and it's fun to get together and talk shop with all of you. So hopefully you guys make a lot of new connections by doing it. They've made it very easy, but thank you again for participating and for attending the session.
Thank you.